Friends, welcome to a new program of Changing Tracks. Today we have Keith with us. Thanks for joining us. Could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about where you're from, about your family.
So my name is Keith Kelly. I'm from Westport, County Mayo. I currently live in Donegal, which is it's near the north of Ireland. It's the north of Ireland, and I'm married. I have 3 children.
So, what was your faith like when you were young?
The faith, it was almost non-existent. Like I was kind of sacramentalized. That's quite common in this country. We're culturally very Catholic, but I wasn't catechized or evangelized. I think there was obviously, because I was baptized, there was a seed of faith. I always had like reverence for the name of Jesus. I'd never take his name in vain. I don't know where that came from, but I can only attribute it to baptism. And I always believed in God, and I was always attracted to the idea of God as Father, because I didn't have a father growing up. My dad was an alcoholic, but I think it was just because of his alcoholism that I just had a lot of anger, and the way I kind of perceived the church was just like, well, the church is just for old people, because I think if you look at the mass attendance, the majority of people attending mass were just older people. So I think my mentality was, I'm going to start going to church when I get old. God's there, but I'm just going to enjoy my life first. And so it was a very selfish kind of attitude, but there was other variables going on there as well. I just had a lot of anger toward my father and my situation, and I think that definitely distorted the way I perceived God too,
Do you remember having spoken with God at all when you were little? Or did you have any type of relationship with him?
Like I would have prayed like vocal prayers we learned in I went to Catholic, I would have went to Catholic schools. I would have went to Catholic primary schools and secondary schools. So like I would have learned like basic kind of vocal prayers like the Our Father, the Hail Mary. I would have prayed them like occasionally, and I would have kind of went to mass occasionally as a young person. I think when I got to like the age of maybe 11, 12, you're kind of coming into those years where like your peer group is so important, and I was kind of controlled by the peer group. Like what they thought of me was, I was controlled by that essentially. So I think faith, then I was kind of embarrassed to go to church, and there was more of a resistance then when my parents tried to bring me, but it was very, it was sporadic. It wasn't consistent, and there was just a lack of intellectual formation there. I didn't know why you should go to mass, or it was just, yeah.
Do you have any brothers or sisters? And if so, did they have any influence on you?
I'm the eldest of 5, so I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and my youngest sibling is special needs, so she's got autism and epilepsy and just a lot of health complications, to be honest. Because of my dad's alcoholism, I would have been a father figure to my 2 brothers, my younger one in particular, so he would have looked up to me in ways. I would have just assumed his position in the household in a very dysfunctional way, but they did have kind of respect for me, and but I was a kid, so I didn't really know how to do that, and I don't think that was fair for me to assume that role in the first place, but that was kind of just the dynamic in our family. So it was kind of, I was closer to my brothers than I was to my sisters. And then my youngest sibling, Sarah, I suppose, like she was just a baby of the household, and she was special needs. So we all had a kind of a special relationship with her,
And your mother, did she have faith?
She definitely had something, but again, she didn't know how to, it wasn't like a living relationship with God or anything. She didn't know how to practice it, but she had faith. I remember her telling me a story about my dad having some kind of withdrawals from alcohol in England, because I was born in England. I was born in London. I lived there for 6 years. And she called a priest because my dad was having some kind of manifestations. I don't know, it was they think it was some encounter with the demonic. So my mum was able to, like, her first reaction to that was she gravitated toward the church, that we need to go see a priest, you know. So my mum had faith, but again, it was it was a cultural kind of a faith, and it wasn't a well-formed faith, you know.
So how old were you when you began to go off track?
Oh yeah, I kind of went off the rails. I think it was like toward the end of my primary education, so sixth class. So I would have been 12 years of age, and I got suspended from school for like the last 5 or 6 weeks. I can't remember what it was for. I think it might have been fighting or something, and just I think I was very aggressive verbally toward maybe the principal or something. So there was, that was when the anger started to really come to the surface. So yeah, that's when that particular kind of trajectory started towards the end of primary school. But hormonally, I was coming into like adolescence, and I think there was all kinds of stuff going on, you know. So.
Okay, so what was secondary school like? Did that continue?
Well, I made a vow to myself, but obviously wasn't able to keep it without, you know, that access to kind of sanctifying grace, supernatural grace, whatever you want to call it. I made a vow that I'd never drink alcohol because I seen how destructive it was to my father and how it impacted us negatively as a family. But I wasn't able to remain faithful to that, so I started drinking at a young enough age. I must have been maybe 13. I think I got arrested the first time I was drinking on a night out. And then I started kind of experimenting with different drugs. I started hanging around with lads who, interestingly enough, had similar wounds to myself. So a lot of them had absent fathers. And we kind of came from very dysfunctional homes. So that was kind of a family for me. And we weren't good for each other, and I got into a lot of trouble with the guards. And yeah, so it was just very destructive.
And what was going on inside at that time? Did you experience emptiness? Did you want to get out? What were you feeling?
I think the enemy is very good at keeping us kind of distracted, because, like, you know, we know that, like, silence is the language of God. I think St. Faustina said that, and I think C.S. Lewis said something to the effect of, like, noise is the music of hell. So, like, he kind of saturates us with as much kind of noise and distraction because he wants to kind of stifle the voice of God, you know, who's always calling us back to himself. I think where God used to get me was right before I went to bed, and that's when my conscience would start kind of just gently kind of like reprimanding me, but like it was also like there was a self-confrontation of like, I'm not happy. My life isn't making me happy. I'm doing everything that the world is telling me will make me happy, but there's just this emptiness, and I just feel like I'm not the man I want to be, you know. But that kind of like, that time was so short because then I just fall asleep and I'd repeat the same process. It was insanity, really, looking back. But then right before I went to bed, oftentimes I'd pray a few prayers because I just felt like I wasn't being a good example to my siblings, and I wanted them to be better than I was, you know. So I think that's when God was kind of that was the tiny bit of kind of space in the day where he was trying to get in and call me back to himself, you know.
So this went on all through secondary school. What happened after?
Well, I got expelled from secondary school in third year, so right before my junior cert, I got expelled from school for like, there was just an accumulation of different things, and it was the right decision. Like, you know, I'd have no bitterness toward the principal. He obviously has to run a school, like, you know. So I got expelled from school, and I got a knock on my door. I had 11 summonses, which meant that I had 11 charges brought against me, and I was looking at a prison sentence. So I had to hire a solicitor, and he was very frank with my parents. He just said, like, it's more than likely you're going to end up in jail, like, you know. So I think that's when I started to panic, And in desperation, then I really kind of intensified my prayer life, so to speak, but I really turned to God, and I was just like, if you're there, like, I need help, you know.
Okay, so this moment of prayer, was that your way of speaking to God?
No, not that. That was kind of like a repeated process over a spell of maybe a year. See, there was a lot going on, like, so like I was having these kind of like demonic encounters as well at night. Well, this is just my interpretation, but I'm pretty convinced that they were like of demonic origin. But like I used to wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be like dripping in sweat, but I'd be paralyzed and I wouldn't be able to move, and I'd feel this evil presence in the room, and I'd be suffocated by this presence, but again I'm paralyzed, and I'd feel him on top of me, and there was just this kind of like I don't know how to articulate it, but it was I'd usually just wake up screaming, or and I explained to my mother, and she kind of like, again, that little bit of faith she'd received growing up, she suggested I start praying the St. Michael prayer, and that's what I did. She wrote it out on a piece of paper and sellotaped it to my bed, and she put the Bible beside my pillow. I used to just sleep with my hand on the Bible, and because I was just frightened, like, and then I used to hear voices during the day, but they were evil suggestions and stuff, so this was going on like for around a year. I think my sinful lifestyle opened doors to like the kind of the spiritual realm. But like it all culminated one night where like there's a mirror in the back of my bathroom door, and I looked into the mirror and I could see like the devil inside me, but like it was just this really beastly form of myself, and I could hear him audibly now. And he was just saying things to me like, I have you now, you're mine, and just things like that. And I actually started crying, I was weeping. I couldn't do anything of my own accord for 5 minutes. He was laughing at me, mocking me, taunting me. And then, like, this was going on for maybe 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I was given the grace to fall to my knees, and I just started praying the Our Father. But it was like the most sincere Our Father I've ever prayed in my life. I was like calling out to God, Father, if you're there, like, I need you. Like, I need you. Like, it was just, and halfway through the Our Father, like, I felt a different presence in the room. And that evil presence was just physically removed. I don't know how, and just there was just this divine peace, and it was so tangible, like I could touch it. It was just, it's very hard to put into words. I just lay there on the ground, and I just wept, and I wept, and I wept. And I kind of knew then that God was my Father, and yeah, just from then I was just like, I need help every night. I was just praying for help, begging for the grace to change my life, because I just couldn't do it off my own strength, and I was trying, but without God's strength, without His grace, I couldn't do it. And then my dad became sober through attending AA meetings, and like, for anyone who's unfamiliar with the AA program, just very briefly, you're given a sponsor to help facilitate your recovery. And the man that was given to my dad as a sponsor was a man named Jim Brown, who had a massive conversion in Medjugorje and started bringing groups of people to Medjugorje. And my dad was introduced to the Rosary. So Jim told Dad to pray a decade of the Rosary for me every day. And then my dad ended up bringing me to Medjugorje. And that's where I had a powerful just conversion out there.
Okay, so how much time went by between the experience of praying the Our Father and then going to Medjugorje?
I think it was around a year. I can't quite remember, but I think it was within a year. Yeah, I ended up in, maybe it was less than a year, because I ended up in Medjugorje, I think 3-4 weeks before my court case.
So how was your experience in Medjugorje? Could you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so I went to Medjugorje in 2005, and I think, to be honest, like, for the first couple of days I wasn't really participating in the activities. I was kind of just like drinking in the bars over there, like looking for girls, just like up to my normal kind of antics. And then on the third day I just said, look, I'm just going to give God a chance. And I climbed this hill called Apparition Hill, where allegedly, like, Mary first appeared to 6 young children at the time. And I don't know what happened, like, but I like, again, it's very hard to articulate it and put it into words, but I just remember, I just fell in love with Our Lady, and I just had an encounter with the Blessed Mother, because I think God in His wisdom, like, because of that dysfunctional relationship I had with my own father, like, He knew that I'd be able to connect with Mary more, do you know, because I had a close relationship with my biological mother. So He, like, through the instrumentality of the Blessed Mother, that was how I was brought back to the faith, you know, and I just remember the only way I can explain it really is just like unconditional maternal love. I'd never experienced it before in my life. Like, I kind of spent time teaching, and I always used to tell the students, you know, when I'd be explaining this, like, you know, when you look at the world, there's always conditions attached to its acceptance of us. You know, if you don't look like this, you're somewhat inadequate, or if you're not kind of, if you're not academic enough, then you're not worthy of love. Or, you know, there's all these conditions attached to the world's acceptance of us. You don't smell like this, if you don't wear this particular brand. You know, the message just continually being kind of hammered home and perpetrated is just, you're not good enough, you're somewhat inadequate. Whereas the message that was communicated to me through Our Lady was just, I love you in spite of your sinfulness and brokenness, and it just broke me. Like, I just said, I'm gonna change my life for you. Like, it was instantaneous, you know, and there was a lot of work to be done, but it was just, I think that decision was very like, no, I'm changing my life. That's it. This is why I've been looking for my whole life. I'm not giving this up, you know, without a fight. And but it was all through Our Lady, like, you know, she just completely swept me off my feet, if that makes sense. You know, she just, it's just powerful.
And did you go to confession in Medjugorje?
Yeah, I came back to the sacraments on the eve of Divine Mercy. I didn't realise the significance of it at the time, because obviously I just didn't really have faith. I wasn't well formed. But so it was April the 2nd, it was the day St. John Paul II died as well, and it was the first Saturday. So I came back to the sacraments then. Don't know how well I prepared for that confession or how good a confession it was. I suppose it doesn't matter, like. But yeah, that's when I came back to the sacraments, and yeah.
How did your life change after your experience in Medjugorje?
Well, I had a more regular, I just had a prayer life, you know, so I made a promise to Our Lady that I pray the rosary every day, and there's a quote, I can't remember who said it, but it's basically something to the effect of, like, you cannot, like, remain in sin and pray the rosary at the same time. Either you'll give up praying the rosary, or you'll just remain in your sin, or something to that effect. You know, you can't do both simultaneously, you know. And I think it was the rosary that just kept me in the straight and narrow, and ultimately, like, Our Lady brought me to the Eucharist. So I started going to knock with my mother every Friday. And I would fast. I used to do the 5 stones of Medjugorje, which is like pray the rosary, the Eucharist, fast on Wednesdays and Fridays, daily reading of the scriptures, and monthly confession. So I think that was, Our Lady was forming me. Our Lady was, I suppose, detaching my heart from the things that were kind of were quite harmful to me, and just helping me to overcome vice and stuff. So it was just, Our Lady took a very kind of prominent role in forming me. Like, she was kind of like my main formator, I suppose, for quite a while. Yeah.
That's a radical change. How did you manage to persevere in those changes? What did you do to stay firm in your resolutions?
I think it's like, looking back at it now, just like through the lens of God's providence, I think once I stopped drinking, once I stopped taking drugs, I actually kind of had I went into kind of like, I wouldn't say depression, but there was a lot of self-confrontation, and I suppose my wounds, my insecurities, all of those things that I was running away from, you know, because I was obviously self-medicating and all these other things. They were like crutches. I didn't have those anymore, so I kind of became very, what's the word? I kind of started living like a monk essentially, and I stopped hanging around with the lads and stuff. But like, so I didn't have the strength to do that before. But I think, again, looking at it through the lens of providence, I think God had orchestrated things in a certain way that I kind of that kind of natural that separation happened naturally, you know. And I didn't want to be around them anymore. I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I think there was a lot of, it was like going out into the desert. There was just a lot of like fighting and stuff, but I really had a strong prayer life, and I started studying my faith in a very intense way as well. So I just wanted to know, I wanted to give more, I just wanted to reciprocate for what I'd been given by God, you know, because I had that court case, and I got off and I wasn't expecting that, so I just want to reciprocate, because like faith, life, everything is just, it's gratuitous. Like we did nothing to merit it. Like it's just pure gift. Everything God has given us is pure gift. Our salvation, our very existence, we were created out of nothing. So faith is a response to just God's just generosity, and I just wanted to reciprocate that. And even that reciprocation, it was still a movement of grace. That was just grace working in my soul. But I wanted to give back, so it was the 5 stones. I studied my faith, and then I got involved in kind of evangelization and stuff as well. When I was ready, I was still very broken. It took a few years. I just, for a while, I was just living like a monk, really. I was just kind of, just me and God, you know. It was nice. I enjoyed it.
And now, how would you describe yourself? Where are you now? Are you at peace? Do you feel fulfilled? Are you happy? Where are you now?
Yeah, I think it's still a battle. Like, I think, I know it's a bit cliche, like, but you know, I remember someone saying before, we're kind of like an onion, like, and there's layers of stuff. And because I came from such a dysfunctional home, and now I'm a father myself, and I didn't have a dad growing up, so I still think there's residue and there's stuff I need to deal with, but I'm in a much better place to kind of to grow, and because I have God, like I have a prayer life, and yeah, it's the cross will always be there. Like it's in different forms now. Like, but like I'm a married man. I kind of work in forestry. I love it. I volunteer at a youth group. I teach. I love teaching, and I love being a dad. Yeah, no, I'm in a much better place. Much better place, yeah.
Okay, one last question. What would you say to a young person who is in the same situation that you were in? What word, because maybe they can't get out, what word would you say to them?
Yeah, it's a hard one, really. Like you're really kind of, because I've met young people. I've done a lot of kind of voluntary work with young people and ministry. So you're really kind of trying to rely on the Holy Spirit. It's hard to know what to say to them, but I think fundamentally, like we're created for God, right? It's just we're religious beings. We've got this vacuum in our hearts that only God can fill, you know. And like I tried everything else, or like not everything, but I made a lot of mistakes. I was looking for happiness. We're all looking for happiness. We're all looking for like objective meaning and purpose. And I think God is the only one that can satisfy those kind of yearnings and those longings, you know. I remember C.S. Lewis saying something to the effect of, and I know it's a bit, it's probably not, it's a bit vulgar, but he said something to the effect of like, when a man is in a brothel, he's really looking for God. Like, so I think like fundamentally, like he's the only one that's gonna kind of give you that deep fulfillment and purpose and meaning. And those other things, those distractions that the world offers us, like you see it, like I see it even with YouTube now. Smartphones are so addictive, but like you might spend an hour watching all of these kind of sports and stuff, and I love sports, and sports is great. But afterwards, like it's really kind of pleasurable when you're watching these videos. But afterwards, like it doesn't really fulfill you, you know. Whereas like when you're praying, when you're kind of in union with God, when you've got a conscience that's kind of like clean, there's a certain peace that comes with that. I think St. Paul speaks about like the peace that kind of transcends all kind of human understanding, which the world cannot give, you know. And that's just something that God can only give, you know. So I would just say like yeah, this, like the devil is obviously the father of lies, and all these things he offers you, like they're not going to kind of be an adequate substitute for the love of God, you know. It's just there's a quote from St. Augustine. It's one of my favorite quotes, but he said like it's like a great way of like summarizing my life, or the things I've kind of discovered, is just like he said, to fall in love with God is the greatest romance, to seek him the greatest adventure, to find him the greatest human achievement. And I think that kind of just summarizes just like the kind of the gift that the faith is. Just you're in relationship and communion with God, you know, like we're fallen creatures, you know, and we're kind of longing for that communion with our Creator, and that's what the faith gives. It restores us through Christ, obviously. It restores us to that kind of intimacy with the Holy Trinity, you know. So that's what we're made for.
Thank you, Keith, for giving your testimony today. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Friends, only God suffices. Sometimes we live in a world that goes so fast, that we go through it without realizing that really the only thing that will suffice, will fill us, is God. So let's stop running. Thanks for being with us.